I did not like the Marvel Disney Plus series WandaVision. In fact, I hated it. Everyone else in the galaxy loved it, and if you did, you may not enjoy this video. Or maybe you will, and we can respect each other's opinions about sorceresses and robots. Anyway, this is me doing my thing where I offer some ideas on how something could have been fixed or improved. Wanda Maximoff tried to get Vision's corpse back. The government told her no. She takes a town hostage and makes them live in parodies of sitcoms she loved as a child. Agatha Harkness, a centuries-old witch, finds out about this. She inserts herself into the town because she's curious how Wanda is so powerful. There's a prophecy about a Scarlet Witch who is going to do something. G-Man's trying to reanimate Vision's corpse to use as a weapon. He tricks Wanda into turning on Vision's body with magic. He sends Vision to kill Wanda so the town can be free, I guess. Monica Rambeau gets Blue Eyes White Dragon powers from going in and out of Wanda's sitcom dome. The first 3 episodes mimic a specific sitcom or era of sitcoms, allowing the audience to stew in mystery for as long as possible. Wanda's a superhero in the 21st century. Vision's dead. They shouldn't be living in Dick Van Dyke's house in the 1950s. The sitcom thing never did anything for me. It was a 10-second joke stretched out into an hour and a half of filler. Defenders of this show might say the sitcom thing beautifully ties in thematically. Wanda was comforted watching sitcoms as a child, so she transformed reality to match her source of comfort in an attempt to cover up her trauma. That might hold more weight if she wasn't deliberately torturing everyone in this town in an attempt to make herself feel better. But sure, let's go with that. And yes, she is deliberately doing this. She leaves the dome to tell G-Man to allow her to keep tormenting these people. She knows exactly what she's doing. More likely, the showrunners wanted to start with something weird that will generate lots of buzz for the series. You think Mephisto's behind it all? I think Magneto's gonna show up. Starting with a mysterious setting for your show is a surefire way to generate word of mouth that will bring more people to it. The reactions and reviews I watched weren't talking about how compelling the storytelling was. They were talking about their theories on what's going to happen. It's telling that once all the cards were on the table, I universally heard complaints about how everything wrapped up. Is anyone going back and watching this now that it's over? Maybe, I don't know, but I kinda doubt it. I think, for me, this whole thing could have been delivered as a 2-hour movie instead of 9 shorter installments. You could even still do the annoying, not funny sitcom garbage everyone else found delightful, but tighten it up a little. For 5 to 10 minutes, she's in Bewitched, then whatever was popular in the 1970s. Then the Vision walks into the kitchen to get some orange juice, comes back, and we have twins. Play up the mystery angle. Is Wanda doing this on purpose? Is someone else in town pulling the strings? Etc. But we gotta have theory videos on YouTube, and we won't get that if we put it out in one chunk. A lot of people took issue with episode 4 taking a break from the sitcom garbage to explain that Wanda had taken control of an entire town, and the weird stuff we had been seeing up until this point was the FBI trying to get inside the town. This didn't bother me for a few reasons. Way too often I've been the victim of TV shows stringing audiences along with promises of something big and exciting only to push us on the ground and steal our wallets. I do not think halfway into the series is too early to start giving us some answers. And people were acting like this spoon-fed everything to us, but no, it didn't. At the end of the series, I still have a bunch of questions that weren't answered. All episode 4 did was introduce us to a few more supporting characters I can actually get a read on, since I find out actual things about them. Not, oh, you're a 1960s housewife, and that's about it. And it tells us what I assumed everyone already knew, that this stuff we were seeing isn't real. Was anyone actually surprised by that? We didn't know the specifics, but this tells us what we should have been smart enough to figure out on our own. It just gave us a refreshing break from non-characters doing not funny shenanigans while someone who isn't David Lynch tries to do David Lynch, a shtick I already can't stand, in a less accomplished manner. Complaints about episode 4 might have held more weight if the first 3 episodes had some kind of substance. Anything past homage to your favorite sitcoms would have been nice. The post-episode 4 stuff has Vision investigating what's going on, and I'm wondering if the series would have been better if we had more of that pre-episode 4. I felt like the first 2 episodes, which came out together, were lacking some kind of hook to make me want to come back. Like Vision discovers a dead government agent on his way to work. Nobody else notices it, so he looks into it. All the characters still act the way they have been. Vision pretends everything's great while trying to figure out what this is all about. It's not a bad thing for a detective story to give away some of the answers halfway in, and still keep some reveals for the climax. The problem is, this series wasn't structured like a detective story until episode 6 out of 9. That takes care of my issues with the series overall. What about some specifics? Quicksilver, he's out. This show was really bad about teasing audiences that something is coming, then pulling the rug out from under them. I have no interest in getting into last Last Jedi debates, so let's instead talk about what Ralph Boner's purpose was. Go ahead, I'll wait. If you can't answer that question, that's because he didn't have a purpose. I guess Agatha wanted someone to spy on Wanda, but since that didn't work, he was useless. His real purpose was to make audiences think he's Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men movies, and Wanda accidentally pulled him into this reality, and maybe some of the others will follow. Then when that didn't happen, fans were naturally upset. Part of the downside of delivering the story in 9 chunks, people think something is going to happen, then have weeks of hoping that thing will happen. And the only reason anyone thought this was going to happen was because you deliberately cast Evan Peters. You told us he was Quicksilver. He doesn't need to be here, since he serves no purpose other than trolling fans. G-Man. This is weird because I see Wanda's actions as those of a supervillain. She's selfish, she doesn't care that she's traumatized an entire town as long as she's happy. She knows what she's doing, so her being manipulated by an outside force won't fly. So G-Man opposing her makes sense, but in the finale, he's trying to stop her and he's being played like a bad guy. Monica decides to fight him even when she knows Wanda is endangering reality with her actions. Oh, but he's trying to shoot Wanda's kids. Okay? Does shooting someone's imaginary friends make them a villain? This guy already knows who all the people in town are. He knows that these kids are not, air quotes, real people, so his actions here still don't really make me think that he's a full-on villain like everyone else thought. You can have complex, multi-layered villains and not hate the people trying to stop them from being villainous. Look at the first X-Men movie. We feel bad for Magneto. He suffered trauma, and in his mind, he's trying to make the world a better place. Good on you, Magnus. But the X-Men know he could kill hundreds, and that could start a race war that will get thousands killed. So we're not rooting against the X-Men just because they're opposed to Magneto. I wonder if people would like this guy if we knew more about him. This might be a little weak, but what if he lost someone in the snap? Someone in an airplane, or on a boat, or in a crucial surgery. Then when everyone unsnaps, they died because the plane or boat or surgeon wasn't there. Could be a wife or a kid, I don't know. Then he sees an opportunity to recreate the Vision, but answerable to his branch of the government. Nobody else will lose their wife or son because Whitey is here to save the day. Not a great nickname for New Vision, but it gives him sympathetic reasons for opposing Wanda. And hey, he's been through some trauma. He doesn't care if he has to steamroll Wanda to get what he wants. He's going to keep doing this even at the risk of the lives of his agents. Parallels, isn't that neat? Agatha. Remember when the internet lost their mind because it was Agatha all along? Remember how it wasn't Agatha all along? How Wanda deliberately kidnapped a town? She left the dome to tell the government she intended to keep doing this? Remember how none of that was Agatha? No? Just me? Okay. I guess Agatha did some stuff like kill the dog so that Wanda can age her kids up faster, but I don't know why she did that. I don't have much here, but it would be nice if I knew what Agatha's plans were and why she was doing what she's doing. People said G-Man was boring, but I at least knew what he was about. Agatha, I guess, wants to absorb Wanda's magic, but it seems like she could have done that in the first episode. People who hated episode 4 didn't seem to have a problem with episode 8, an hour of exposition, and about stuff we mostly already knew. A friend of mine who really likes this series defends this because now she's not just Wanda, she's the Scarlet Witch. And I could not care less. I honestly never noticed that they didn't call her Scarlet Witch before. I know who she is in the comics, so I just kind of put 2 and 2 together. I certainly didn't need Agatha touring Wanda's mind for that pretty useless addition to this world. Anyway, we find out the reason Agatha hasn't resorbed Wanda's power is she wants to know why Wanda is so powerful. And who cares? That has got to be the worst explanation for why a villain hasn't done their villainous plan I've ever seen. I assume people were on board with Agatha because she was all animated and wacky, but I think some of these 1950s housewives were more interesting than this character, and that's saying something. The finale confused and angered me. I wasn't sure where Wanda ends up emotionally. We're being shown Wanda has realized the folly of her actions, with her conversation with Monica and her farewell speech to her kids and Vision. Then she's looking for her kids. Maybe she's taking a turn for the sinister. I don't care if bringing my kids back endangers the whole multiverse this time. I must have happiness. Turning her into more of a villainous character could be very interesting. Up until now, in the MCU, we've had good guys and bad guys, and no real middle ground. You had Mordo, but that also maybe could have been handled better. So the idea of using this series to turn Wanda from an Avenger who's risked her life to save the galaxy to someone who is a little unhinged and acts in extremes to get what she wants, that's gold. I just wish it stuck the landing. It seems like someone shot the series, then remembered, oh, this is Marvel, we need to do a post-credits thing to set up whatever's coming next. context. So they have Wanda looking for her kids, but that's exactly the opposite of the touching farewell she had with them less than 20 minutes ago. While I prefer the idea of her going along the more sinister route, I'd be fine if this ended with Wanda saying, "I messed up, I cannot do this again." And Monica says, "I know a guy who can help you control your powers. You don't even have to have Benedict Cumberbatch cameo. Just hint that that's where it's going, and that's fine." Or she says, "That wouldn't change the way they see me." And Monica says, "You tortured them. They have a right to be angry." And Wanda just doesn't get it. And she leaves when the authorities arrive. Then you tease the Darkhold, and Wanda is studying and might be a menace in the future. If you're into this multiverse trash, this would be the time to tease that. Wanda tries to pull spirits from another reality into her reality. She weakens the multiversal walls or something like that. I don't think this show was ever going to work for me. The people who complain that superhero movies are all the same, well, the same is true for sitcoms for me. I could not possibly care less about Leave It to Beaver or Andy Griffith or any of these boring shows this series and its fans are so in love with. Down to the very premise, I was programmed to hate this. But I think you could still take the elements of this series and arrange them to make something a little better. But those are just my thoughts. I hope you guys like this, and if you did, I do these kinds of videos all the time, so check me out in the future to see what else I've got to say. Until then, see you later.